Turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. Waiting to Smoke Possibly Saved My Life by Silverbide4499. Hi, first time poster here. After reading and listening to countless stories, I thought it was time to share one of my own. Around 2 years ago, my friend Jenny decided to throw a party for her birthday. She had not celebrated her birthday in many years and was really excited to do so again. Something important to know about Jenny is that she was in active addiction at this time. It was all kinds of different drugs. I think it mostly depended on what she could get at the time. But it was bad. She is a lovely person and is doing very well right now. But I do think that her drug use was one of the reasons why this all went so wrong. Her friend circle consisted mostly of people she used with. She had a few good and close friends, but not a lot. A week before the party, I asked her how many people she had invited. She said around 80. I laughed and asked her why so many. She said, "Well, I also invited people that I don't really know well, but they're chill." This was already kind of a red flag for me. That night, I had another party before hers, so I was decently tipsy. I knew that the other party would mostly be people that I did not know on hard drugs, which I had never done and had no experience with at the time, so I needed some liquid courage. I went with my friend Noah. She had rented a small venue to fit all the people. It was pretty much an abandoned lot on a very quiet street. There were almost no houses, only a few factories. The layout is pretty important to know. Basically, you had the entrance with a tiny yard for people to smoke. Then you had to enter the building and go up the stairs to get to a living room/kitchen type area. And next to that was a small room with a DJ. Everything was fine in the beginning. I did have a lot of fun. Around 1, there was a small fight. I didn't witness it, but I was told immediately after. Apparently, there were 4 guys who tried to get in, but only one of them was actually invited. They were told to leave by some of the guys, and when they didn't, there was a small fight. Nothing noteworthy, I thought then. I asked Noah if he wanted to go out for a smoke. He said he'd finish his conversation and then we could go out together. A little while later, we walk out of the kitchen and towards the stairs, but there were like 6 people bundled up at the top of the stairs. Instinctively, I took a step back. I was just turning around to Noah with a "what the fuck" look when we heard people screaming and glass shattering. All the people who were standing in front of us jumped back, and so did we. There was more screaming and people stumbling on the stairs. I then saw Oliver, one of the few people I knew at that party, walking up the stairs, head covered in blood. Another guy I knew by face with a bleeding nose, and my friend Jason grasping his shoulder, his girlfriend behind him. Earlier that evening, I stupidly and drunkenly fell on the cement with both knees, scraping them open. But because of that, I knew where the first aid kit was. I've never had any issue with blood. I can't handle other bodily fluids, but when someone is bleeding, I can help them, no problem. I saw Oliver go into the kitchen and I wanted to go after him to help him. Now, this is about to get kind of gross, but bear with me. I saw Oliver had something stuck in his forehead. Because I heard the glass shattering, I assumed it was glass. But when I got closer, I saw there was a piece of his skull stuck out of his forehead. That was too much for me. Instantly sober, I promptly turned around and went into another room. He was surrounded by a lot of people though, and 911 was called immediately. Turns out, those guys who were ejected from the party came back with 30 other guys, carrying bats and steel pipes. They just started hitting the first people they saw, and they left as quickly as they came. The whole attack lasted no more than 30 seconds. I found my friend Jason still grasping his shoulder. He and his girlfriend were closest to the entrance of the property, so they were attacked first. Yes, these cowards did indeed beat up a woman. They did not care at all. Jason's shoulder was dislocated. Luckily, his girlfriend wasn't too wounded. Police and ambulance arrived pretty quickly. Oliver was taken to the hospital and luckily made a full recovery after surgery. My friend Jenny was in hysterics, both because of what had happened and because of whatever was in her system. The cops were no help. At one point, they were yelling at her because she was too upset to form complete sentences. They left after a while, and so did most of the people. Noah and I were still there. We tried to help wherever we could. I was still in shock and kind of numb, but what snapped me out of my daze was seeing people scrubbing the blood covering the staircase. There was nothing more I could do there, and more importantly, I wanted to go home. Noah went with me, and we stayed up for hours talking and processing everything. To think that if we had decided to go smoke even a minute sooner, or if Noah wasn't having that one conversation, we would have been in the middle of this all. It would also have been a very real possibility that these guys had guns or knives. We live in a pretty rough area, which is even more terrifying to think about. Hands down, the worst party I've ever been to. So yeah, to those guys who ruined my friend's party, let's not meet again. They did a wellness check on the old man and were horrified to see he had been sustaining largely on milk for the best part of 65 years. And then in the next room, they found his even older mother, pump attached to withering breasts but still functioning. Somebody Followed Me on My Walk by AbelBet3145. I, mid-20s, quickly go on walks around my neighborhood before bed. After long days on the screen, I found a quick stroll around the block can do wonders for sleep quality. My neighborhood is generally quite safe, and I do this walk at least once a week within town. Tonight, I felt a little risky and had extra energy after a pretty stressful day. Because of this, I decided to walk around a park nearby. The route is simple, circular loop around the park. I've done it numerous times for nearly 5 years, with nothing of note ever happening prior to tonight. The area is not well lit at all, and I usually am the only person walking around the loop at this hour, usually between 11 p.m. and midnight. At first, everything was pretty normal. I was the only one on the road, and the stars looked beautiful. However, at the halfway point, I noticed something odd. A pair of headlights crept close and began shining behind me. An electric car with no engine noise, this is important, illuminating me on my walk. It stayed at my pace for a few minutes. This made me feel incredibly uneasy. I elected to walk further from the road, hoping the car was just stargazing and would ultimately keep driving past me. I had a really long day and just wanted to blow off some steam on a walk before bed. However, this car kept trailing me. It didn't change its pace from my own, and the driver flipped on its high beams as I walked further off the road to ensure I was in his field of vision. He stayed behind me for another couple of minutes until he realized I was not going to stop walking. At this point, the guy sped forward like 50 feet, aka 15 meters, ahead of the nearest bend of the loop. Thinking he was out of my field of view, I noticed a car lights instantly went out. To an untrained eye or someone unfamiliar with this road, it easily would have looked like the guy drove off. But I knew better. I would have seen his car continue down the end of the loop from my vantage point, heard it roll over the speed bumps, and would have caught it stopping at the stop sign. Instead, I didn't see or hear anything. It was as if the car faded into the night after coming to a quick and quiet stop at the darkest section of the loop. I could have sworn I heard the sound of a door open and close, but it was not light enough to know for sure. That being said, this whole situation made me uneasy. In fact, a little uneasy was an understatement. I felt chills run down my spine. A part of me wanted to walk the whole loop, but felt walking past where this weird guy may have stopped was simply too risky. If he was, in fact, waiting to ambush, I would be toast. Instead, I listened to my gut. I chose to end my walk permanently and cut through a field off the route to a well-lit street. After a minute of walking orthogonal to my original direction, I saw something terrifying. I caught a glimpse of a tall man in the moonlight walking towards me. There are no trees in the area of this park, which is a field. In his hand, he held a weapon of some kind. It looked like an axe or a hammer. I couldn't tell for sure, but noticed he was moving fast. I decided to book it to the well-lit street ahead and made it before he got close to me. From the street, I gazed at the park and noticed the man stopped at the edge. He stared at me with a blank face, brandishing what now looked clearly like an axe in his hands. Horrified, I ran to a nearby gas station, called 911, and left a detailed description as possible about the person and the encounter. I've never felt so scared in my life. The most terrifying aspect of this was the fact that his car was electric. No noise was made when he rapidly exited the vehicle, other than his mistake of closing his door a bit too loud. If I didn't listen to my gut or make out the sound of a car door closing, I might not be writing this post now. Also, if you ever feel uncertain or a degree of angst in a situation like my own, please listen to that inner voice. Don't doubt it. Sometimes the brain picks up on things we may not have consciously noted. So, let's not meet again, random man with an axe who decided to follow me at midnight in the park. We watched in horror as the flames engulfed the woman's stomach before her charred corpse sank dead to the ground. Fear gripped me as I wondered how humanity would survive, knowing that spontaneous combustion was now the leading cause of death for unborn fetuses. How does one just disappear? By Primary Wafer 2573. In my freshman year of high school, I was part of the GROTC, a program in the US that teaches high schoolers about the military. Students were required to join a team, like drill or marksmanship, and we traveled to schools across Washington, Oregon, and Idaho to compete. We all spent so much time together practicing on bus rides and on field trips that we grew close, especially within our school. But that sometimes that friendship isn't a good thing. There was a junior who helped me rank up and made me his assistant. We were close friends, hanging out often because we were in the same club. Then things got weird. He started lingering too much, leaving gifts in my backpack, notes in my locker, and snacks on my desk. The gifts and snacks could have been passed off as friendly, but the notes were unsettling. I burned them years ago, but I remember some of them. I wish people liked me as much as you do. You care about me so much. Or, I saw you walking with some kids yesterday. Who were they? I was just a nanny walking kids home from school. He was always close behind me, and it started feeling like I had eyes in the back of my head. The notes escalated into poems that seemed sweet on the surface, but were clearly possessive. You're mine. You're made for me and I for you. He also started putting things in a backpack that I never mentioned needing. Gifts I hated because I didn't want anyone to think I expected them, but he always knew. We traveled to a competition across town, an overnight stay where we slept in classrooms. By then, I confided in one other girl, but I was terrified no one believed me. He followed me everywhere, and I didn't sleep that night knowing he was just across the hall. The bus ride home was terrifying. My phone was at 8% when we left, but after a 15-minute ride, it was dead. So was my portable charger. I still don't know if that was a coincidence or if he had some play in it, but I was stranded. I couldn't drive yet, so I depended on my parents, who I couldn't reach. Desperate, I accepted a ride from him, even though it was a terrible idea. Almost everyone else had already left, so what else could I do? He knew where I lived. That's all I could think about that night. And worse, he lived a block away from me. For a week, things seemed to go back to normal. Then he got bold and asked me out over text. I politely declined. I was in a relationship and he knew it. He responded by lying, telling me he had brain cancer and that it was his last wish. Obviously, it was BS. After that, I blocked and ignored him as best I could. The gift and notes continued, but the notes grew more possessive and scary. If you really cared about me, you'd talk to me. Normal stalker behavior. Then, suddenly, it stopped for 2 weeks. I thought it was over. But early one morning, around 2 a.m., I woke up to a light tap on my window. I assumed it was a cat kneading back in, and when I looked, there was a face staring back at me. I ran to my dad, screaming about a face in my window, but by the time he checked, he was gone. That's when I finally told the JRTC instructors. I showed them months of notes and told them everything. They had a hard time believing me at first. Then I found another note in my locker. You look pretty in your sleep. That one has stuck with me for years. I still get chills thinking about it. I had blinds and my curtains clipped to the wall so that there wasn't gaps, and my bed was right next to the window. He had gone out of his way to open the window, move the blinds, and unclip the curtains just to look at me. When I explained this to the instructors, they finally believed me. They told me to collect as much evidence as I could and write out everything he'd done. I didn't have cameras around my house, so I couldn't prove he'd come at night, but my neighbor did. He sat with me and watched the footage, and there he was, seen walking up to my house at 2 a.m. and leaving at 3 a.m. He watched me sleep almost every night for a month. When I turned in the evidence, another girl who overheard us talking confessed he'd been creeping with her too, then another, then 5 more. But he only came to my house. The others received gifts, notes, and heard the same lie about cancer. But he never watched them sleep. We gave all of our evidence to the principal, who, with our permission, turned it over to the authorities. One girl even planned to sue him for emotional distress. Then he disappeared. When news spread, none of us heard anything. I checked local obituaries out of fear he might have actually been sick, but there was nothing. 7 years later, there is still no record of him or any member of his family. No trace at all. Even though I moved far away, I still get that chill down my spine like I'm being watched at night. I know I should be grateful, but how did he just vanish? Thank you for listening. I've been keeping this one to myself for a while and haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I had to get it out. By the pact made by thy wife, I now take thy firstborn. The figure hissed as I lunged to tear my son from its grip. I stare around the spare bedroom, wondering why there was so much baby stuff when we don't have a kid yet, and why are there tears in my eyes? And with that, our time together is coming to an end. If you have a story you'd like me to narrate, whether true or fictional, you can send it my way 3 different ways. All the links are down below for you guys, including the ones to my socials. I'd like to thank the writers who let me read their stories this evening. Each one had definitely a different creep factor to it. Going to a friend's birthday party that turns into an actual bloody mess. I'm happy to read that their friend is on a better path and hopefully won't put anyone else at risk like this, especially people that they care about. But I also understand that just a small scuffle like that being turned into something so big where so many people come back with weapons, I wouldn't have foreseen that. I'm also happy only a few people got hurt and no one seriously for a long time, because they could have pushed their way into the whole party and completely hurt everyone inside. So it could have been much worse, but still absolutely terrible and devastating. I'm very happy that at the end, everyone was able to just walk away from it, and maybe this was the wake up that friend needed. But yes, definitely the worst party ever. And going for a walk and having a car following you, and then them coming out of their car with an axe. I'm happy you trusted your gut and got the hell away from there. I don't know what they were planning, but it wasn't anything good, and it probably wasn't something you were going to walk away from if they did whatever they were planning to do. I'm happy you're safe, OP. And then a high school crush, I guess. I mean, it's a little too extreme for it to really be a crush. It would definitely be obsession. And I'm happy they've disappeared and no longer in your life, but I hope this person does get some help, because this is not going to end well in the end. They're going to end up hurting someone and going to jail and ruining 2 or more lives. I'm just happy OP doesn't have to deal with them ever again. But I would definitely keep cameras around your home forevermore, because who knows? People like this are absolutely terrifying. Now, if you enjoyed these stories, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, please subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications. And if you're on mobile and are able to, please hype this video because it helps new people find it. And of course, I would absolutely love a comment. Tell me what you thought, what kind of stories you like in the future. If you got this far, put cameras at every door in your comments so I know you got this far. If you're on the podcast and are able to, please leave a review and a comment. If you're willing to help this channel and podcast grow, please share it with anyone who might enjoy it. It really does help quite a bit. If you're willing to help in a more financial way, like these lovely people on screen right now, I do have Patreon and memberships where you get some bonuses with that. But if you're willing to help in a more financial way, I do have PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, and Super Thanks. All the links to everything are down below for you guys. But always, guys, just thank you for watching and listening. It always has and always will mean the world to me. I truly enjoy narrating these stories. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.